the you don't come to the conclusion, however, after saying, look, naturalism gives you a kind of way of thinking about the world that at root can never say the whole thing is intelligible. It has to say at root the whole thing, look, just accept the fact it has no meaning or it has no purpose, and so ultimately it ends the intellectual life. It doesn't continue. It says, look, the intellectual life ends with your questions about why it's all here or what it's all about. That's not part of so it disqualifies a whole bunch of questions that we actually have.
Yeah.
But what you won't say is naturalism is foolish.
Right, sure. So yeah, the first point is really important, and it comes down to this. Do you think borrowed explanations are genuine explanations? Do you think that you have a genuine explanation if you can answer this, you can answer that, you can answer this, you can answer that, but then you get to some really big thing and it's just a giant question mark, right?
Yeah.
I think intuitively most of us say no, right? I mean, think of it. Here's a crude example. Why is the Earth stable? Well, that's a mystery, right? Well, let's just make something up that we've heard before. Well, maybe it's balancing on a turtle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that stable? Well, it's bouncing on another turtle. Okay. Well, it's bouncing on another turtle. Why are all these turtles there? Well, the last turtle in the line, it's a necessary turtle. It just had to be there. You're like, what? What? Like, so, okay, you kind of
never met a necessary turtle.
You kind of have explanations, but then you get to this like final level.
Yeah.
And it's like, we haven't explained anything, right?
Right.
It's the crudeness or the bruteness at the bottom level that kind of shoots back up. It shoots the mystery all the way back up, and you realize we don't have any explanations at all, right?
Yeah.
So you've really sort of deferred the intelligibility, but then you landed in absurdity. And I say the same thing's really going on with naturalism. Yeah, you can get a lot of intelligibility within the physical world. Of course you can. And that makes sense on theism. But then when you ask, why is the physical world here at all? Or other questions about the physical world that I ask in the book, and you just have to just do the Bertrand Russell and say, well, that's here and that's the end of it. Or, there's some initial physical state, whatever that is. And that's sort of the end of it. And then you have to seriously ask, is it? Right?
Maybe it's for you, but I don't feel like that ended anything. Yeah.
Like to me, that doesn't explain anything. That makes everything worse, right? That makes everything worse, right? So if you're with me on that, then I think you can kind of see what I'm up to in this book, is saying, no, like explanations have to go all the way through or we don't have it at all. And if they're going to go all the way through, then we need some fundamental entity that could explain everything else. And somehow, if we could grasp its nature, it could explain itself. If we could grasp its nature, if we could comprehend its essence, there would be no mystery remaining as to why this thing exists instead of not. It's like if we can grasp the nature of what a mountain is, we can understand conceptually why it includes valleys, right?
Yeah.
So there's something about, if there's a fundamental reality, there has to be something about it that if we could comprehend it, all mystery would be removed of why it exists the way that it does in this necessary and robust way. And what the arguments for God are really doing, Sai, is saying, okay, if there has to be some sort of reality like that, then it has to lack certain features or properties. It has to be unlike all these other sorts of realities that clearly are not self-explanatory, right? Contingent things, changing things, composite things, all the sorts of realities that if we stopped explanation with any one of these, the problem of intelligibility would not be solved. So whatever else is fundamental, it has to be profoundly, categorically different than all the sorts of realities we're commonly familiar with that are just not completely intrinsically intelligible. So that's really getting at the heart of your intelligibility thesis, that it has to terminate in something that cannot be explained by something else. We can't just keep going down a chain. So the only other contender is that reality is fundamentally absurd, right? We just wind up with some huge question marks that there are no coherent answers to, or there's something very, very special whose essence or nature is so qualitatively immense and perfect that if we could wrap our minds around it, we would go, I see. Right now, we can't do that, at least not in this life, but we have good philosophical reasons to think that there is an entity like that at the basement of reality. And that